we will have our next speaker, which is which we have Mr. Kushagra Nagar. Mr. Kushagra Nagar is a senior game developer, and I would like him to please come up on stage. Over to you, Kushagra.
Hello. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Now, before I start, I just have this quick question, which ma'am asked. How many of you love gaming? Wow, nice, nice. And it could be any game, it could be sports also. Okay. And which brings us into just let me just talk about why I love games, right? I think games are such an amazing tool for connecting people together, for bringing out new ideas to life, for for educating people, and most of all, they're about having fun, right? So, with that, let me just start today's presentation. And the topic for my presentation is problem solving in the age of metaverse. Now, I'll be really honest with you guys. My uh, we're going to be talking about game development and gaming a lot rather than problem solving. But I think everyone will like it. Okay. So we're going to be taking a deep dive into problem solving and ways to approach them. But in the age of metaverse, thank you. Okay. So we've all played games, right? And I remember I begged my parents for a computer back in 2009 just because मुझे उस पे games खेलने थे. मतलब मैंने उन्हें बोला कि पढ़ाई के लिए चाहिए but उस पे games चलते थे. Okay. And I think a lot of us have done that because we're developers. Gaming is such a big part of our lives, right? Especially video games. And I think we've all played these games. GTA. How many of you love GTA? Nice, nice. Right, so yeah, GTA San Andreas is one of my favorite games, right? And Super Mario was my first game. Super Mario. Nice. And Far Cry and CSGO, and there's a lot of different games out there, right? Sorry? Yeah. Now, of course, when I say the word games or video games, you all know what I mean, right? मतलब सबके दिमाग में एक इमेज है कि वीडियो गेम्स क्या है. It's not this. ठीक है? We all know what games are, right? So, um, before that, let me just get into how the gaming industry has changed, especially in India, right? Because if you guys remember, कुछ साल पहले तक gaming had a very bad reputation, right? मेरे parents, they hated it when I played games on my system, right? And that's all I did actually. And the gaming industry, especially in India, has changed a lot throughout these years, right? Presently, we're talking about the metaverse. We're throwing around words like RTX, high-end graphics, 4K graphics, all that shit, right? Now, the reason for that, I think we all kind of know what the reason is, and it has something to do with this company called Face Meta. Okay, and they're actually betting a lot of money on this entire metaverse concept, right? I'm going to explain what metaverse is in a while, right? But before that, let me just first, as a game developer, a very basic question that you might ask me is, what is a game, right? Now, of course, as I said, हम सब लोगों को पता है कि game क्या होता है, right? What's a video game, right? But we need to have a clear distinction, right? Because if you think about it, all games are software, right? But not all software are games, right? So if I had to define a game, I'll just say that games are just softwares on which you're constantly doing problem solving application in real time, right? And hopefully having a bit of fun while doing it, right? Unlike GTA 4. Now, yeah, of course, that's what games are if we want to define it, right? Now, another question that you might ask me as a game developer is how do you actually make these games, right? हम सब लोगों के दिमाग में ये question एक ना एक बार आया ही होगा कोई गेम खेलते हुए कि यार ये भाई ये गेम बना कैसे होगा, right? Of course, you could say be a man and code करो अपना game खुद scratch से, and we can do that, okay? But we don't do that because we are game developers. We use a cheat code, all right? And that cheat code is called something. It's called a game engine, all right? Now, what's a game engine? Thank you for asking. Uh, a game engine. Think of it as Photoshop, but for games, all right? So a game engine is basically software on which we make games, all right? It has all the necessary tools and libraries that we need to accelerate our game development process. So for example, a game might have a physics system or an audio library or a video library or a camera system or a lighting system, all right? We can code all of that, of course, but we don't. So a game engine has all of these basic libraries and tools that we need to create a game, all right? And of course, there is a lot of game engines out there. अभी मैं भी बोलूँगा, मैं किसी random इंसान को खड़ा करूँगा तो I'm sure you might know a little bit about game engines, but if you don't, there are a lot of different game engines out there: Unreal, Unity, Godot, Shiva Engine, Dunya Engine, Cry Engine. If you've played Far Cry, it's made on Dunya Engine. Just an interesting fact. Anyway, game engines. So of course, there is a lot of different game engines out there, and these softwares help us to accelerate our game development process and help us with the entire process, right? Now, me being a game developer, another question that you might ask me is, what software do you use, right? And I use a software called Unity, right? कितने लोगों ने यहाँ Unity के बारे में सुना है? Nice. And कितने लोगों ने यहाँ Unreal के बारे में सुना है? Ah, that's nice. That's nice. College students mostly. And first, let me just talk about Unity a bit, right? Because I work on Unity, right? Unity is actually a free game engine or a gaming engine that you can download. And wait, what happened? I would actually encourage each and every one of you to go home and download Unity just for once, or Unreal. They're all free game engines and they're really powerful, right? We do our coding in C# in Unity, and it's a very beginner friendly but very powerful tool, all right? Some really amazing games have been made on Unity. And one of the reasons that let me just be honest, one of the reasons that I started Unity was because मेरे system में और कुछ चल ही नहीं पाता था, right? Unreal तो बहुत दूर की बात है, Unity ही support कर सकता था मेरा system, so I started on Unity, but then I realized how powerful it is, all right? I mean, it's being used by professionals and it's being used in the gaming industry widely, all right? Just look at me, for example. I'm also a Unity dev, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And before I move on, I just want to talk about this really interesting concept, right? Now, यहाँ पर I know कि a lot of people have played GTA, Far Cry, all these open world games, right? And कितने लोगों ने उसमें चिड़िया उड़ते हुए देखी है? Group of birds flying around, या फिर जब उसमें पानी में जाते हैं तो fishes swimming around, right? Have you ever wondered how we actually code that in our game? नहीं, किसी ने नहीं किया. Anyway, let me just talk about how we code these birds in our game, all right? So these birds are something in the game development world we'll call them BOIDs, all right? Which stands for bird-like objects. Now, these bird-like objects behave like how these real birds or flock of birds or fishes behave in real life, right? By following just 3 very simple rules, right? What are these rules? So the first one is separation. So basically, I code a bird, all right? एक bird है जो उड़ रहा है ऐसे randomly. Then I put one rule. उसके behavior में I put this one rule कि avoid crashing into the other bird, all right? So if a bird is flying like this, it'll just steer away from the other birds, right? Second rule that I code is alignment. So the bird will try to align itself to the average heading direction of its neighboring birds, all right? So अगर ज़्यादा birds ऐसे उड़ रहे हैं तो they'll start to head into that direction. And the third rule is cohesion, which is to steer away, which is to steer to move towards the average position of the entire flock. All right. Now, abhi you don't have to get into detail what these rules are and how we code them. It's really easy to code them. But the interesting thing is ki when you combine these three very simple rules, you get a behavior that is sort of like this. This is how birds fly in real life, right? And you can replicate this for fishes also. So this is how we code birds and fishes in our games. So GTA, Far Cry, जब भी आप लोग खेल रहे होगे and you see a flock of birds flying around, just know that it's following these very three simple rules. And this concept of taking something from the real world and then simulating it in the gaming world really got me interested into game development, all right? And it just, pushed me over the edge. Now, another gaming engine that, of course, a lot of you have heard about is called Unreal Engine. And Unreal has been in the news these days a lot because Unreal Engine 5 just came out and it's really powerful. Unreal is actually being used by, not just by the gaming industry, but by a lot of different industries. And unke baare mein bataunga. But Unreal was developed by this company called Epic Games. And Fortnite कितने लोगों ने खेला है यहाँ पर? और एटलीस्ट Fortnite के बारे में कितने लोगों को पता है? हाँ, nice. So Fortnite was actually made on Unreal, and some really good games have come out on Unreal, like Rocket League, Fortnite, and Mortal Kombat. And it has the Unreal Engine 5 has some amazing technology. And उनके बारे में बात करने से अच्छा, let me just show you this one video. See if it doesn't buffer. So now this guy is like, train kab aayega, right? But the actual thing is that this video is not an actual video. This was made on Unreal, right? And you know what the best part is? ये एक बंदे ने बनाया है अपने घर में बैठ के. And this is actually recorded in real time. So what that means is कि if I change a value, if I want कि यहाँ पर रात दिखनी चाहिए, अंधेरा दिखना चाहिए, I can just change one value in my program and this will reflect in real time. Let me just tell you how important this was, right? अगर किसी VFX artist को हम बोलेंगे ना कि ऐसा video render करके दो, so it'll take their very powerful system a lot of hours to render a video like this. But this Unreal, it's going on in real time, which is a very big deal, right? And this really blows our mind. This is like photorealistic graphics, right? It's using technology called Nanite and Lumen. It's an exclusive feature for Unreal 5, and this is the night condition, right? So you can actually, and the flashlight thingy that you see is Lumen at work. So it's the lighting system that Unreal has, and it's amazing, right? And another amazing feature that Unreal just launched is called MetaHuman, right? It's still in the beta state. Okay. Now you might have seen these NPCs in your games, like San Andreas or in सब में. उनकी शक्ल क्या दिखती है यार? This is very low poly, but Unreal is now actually able to create these very high detailed humanoid models. You can actually download this for free and try and create your own character. It's very easy. It's not part of Unreal just yet, so you can just download this software called MetaHuman, and you can create your own avatars for the metaverse. This is our vision, I think. So, right, very high detail models. Now, of course, हम सब लोगों ने GTA खेला है, right? And GTA actually uses this game engine called Rockstar's Advanced Game Engine. And why am I talking about it? Because of course हम सब लोगों ने GTA 5, GTA 4, Red Dead ये सब इनमें से एक ना एक गेम तो खेला ही होगा, okay? So if you ever wondered कि कैसे बना है, it was made on Rockstar's very own game engine. right? And even as a game developer, I have no idea what this software looks like because Rockstar has this really strict non-disclosure agreement policy thingy. तो किसी को भी नहीं पता कि वो engine कैसा दिखता है. But we know that all these games are made on Rockstar's very own engine, right? So it's not because we're lazy, right? सब लोग use करते हैं industry में, alright? So we're also using it, and we don't want to code everything from scratch, of course. Now, dark design patterns, right? So this was all about how you actually make a game, right? But let me just talk about some design patterns that we follow, or some, these are even followed in the software industry. To actually, okay, before I move forward, let me just talk about how these games and softwares actually affect you and your brain, right? So you might have heard that social media is bad for your brain, right? And it kind of is, because it plays with your dopamine system. So whenever you get a new like or a new follow on Facebook or Instagram, you get this dopamine release in your brain, and that's why you keep coming back to it, right? You feel thoda sa acha when you get a new like or a follow. So of course, these apps play with your dopamine systems, and games are not that different, right? You might have heard कि लोग addict हो जाते हैं games से, and they play for hours and hours on end. मुझे देख लो. But how do we achieve that as a game developer? How do I do that? How do I make sure that the player keeps coming back and back to my game, right? Because that's ultimately what I need. I need कि player जितना ज़्यादा time spend करे मेरे game पे, मेरे लिए उतना अच्छा है, right? So we follow these design patterns, all right, to keep the player coming back to our game and keep everything more engaging, right? But some of these patterns are called dark design patterns. This is very interesting because this is kind of like drug awareness, right? Because these patterns actually play with your dopamine systems, right? So I won't get into detail, but let me just talk about some of them in thoda sa brief, right? So I think सब लोगों को पता है कुछ games they give you daily rewards for logging in, right? जब भी आप रोज गेम खेलोगे तो you'll get rewards, and धीरे धीरे और reward मिलते जाएगा रोज खेलने पर, right? That's something called daily rewards, and we use that to keep the player coming back to our game every day, right? And this is not just used by games. हर software या application, ये सब लोग इनमें से कोई ना कोई design pattern follow करते हैं, alright? Then there's this some pattern called end out progress, जिसमें we just show you your progress, alright? कि game में आप इस level पे पहुंचे हो. Now, if you're at 80%, just tell me, would you want to quit the game? No, right? You'll make it to 100%. You want to make it to 100%. So that's what we do, alright? So these patterns are not exactly illegal. It's not exactly illegal to use them, but then it's frowned upon, alright? Because they play with your they play with your brain, alright? That's when the player is not playing the game is playing the player, alright? So just keep that in mind whenever you play a game or see an app. If you think that they're actually playing with you, just calm down. Now, of course, इतना ये बोल दिया कि games ऐसे होते हैं, लोग addict हो जाते हैं वो. Let me just talk about how these game engines are now being used in different industries, not just for gaming. Alright, so let me just go on Unreal's website real quick. And I thought presentation में अच्छे से डालने से अच्छा I'll just go on the Unreal's website and show what they're doing. Alright, so of course we all know Unreal is being used to make some amazing games, Fortnite and everything. But Unreal is also being used in the film industry, alright? And the reason for that is, I think I just said कि graphics are now very photorealistic and you can actually edit them in real time, right? So that's really powerful, and it's being used for creating VFX and different environments for film and TV, which you can change in real time. That's a very huge deal, right? But the video is not loading. I'm so sorry. Now, Unreal is not just being used in this industry, it's also being used by architects to create some really high poly 3D models for their buildings, and just to showcase all of that. It's being used by the automobile industry to create virtual showrooms, give virtual drives, and for creating very high resolution, very high quality 3D models of these amazing cars, right? It's being used by the broadcast and live, live industry, live broadcast industry, to create these very amazing VFX and effects in real time. So uh, that's also one of the good things that Unreal offers. But my favorite part is how Unreal Engine or any of these game engines is able to simulate real life things in the game world. All right, so um, fighter jet pilots, normal just airplane pilots, race car drivers, doctors, they're all able to, train themselves in this virtual environment, even the army, without the prospect of someone getting hurt, right? So pilots have this training program first. If you've heard about Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's a very realistic flight simulator. So pilots actually train on Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then they actually fly a real plane, all right? And I think that's amazing. You don't have to die, and then you can actually crash, but you don't have to die. And it's being used, and Unity is also being used by other industries as well. It's being used by the education industry. Unity is really good for VR and AR. So it's being used by the education industry and lots of different industries as well. How many of you seen the movie Interstellar? So उसमें black hole जो आता है end में movie के, that's did you know that's how the scientists actually think a black hole looks like, right? They have all these equations worked out. I don't know how it works. I'm not a physicist, but people have actually simulated that black hole in Unreal Engine in real time, and it looks like how it looks like in the Interstellar movie, all right? It looks very realistic. So that's the power of Unreal Engine and all these game engines, right? Now, of course, one question that you might ask me is कि अरे इतने अच्छे graphics वगैरह है, इतने अच्छी technology हो गई है, so why are metaverse graphics so bad, right? हर जगह these metaverse games have so weird graphics, right? Why is it? Now, before I answer that, let me just answer another question. That is, what is metaverse, right? Because even as developers, I think we need to be, a lot of us are not aware of what the metaverse actually is, right? So metaverse is, if I had to put it in words, metaverse is just this concept of having a virtual environment, having all these different virtual environments where you can do things that you can actually do in real life and even more. All right. So if I want to have a meeting virtually, I can have it in the metaverse, right? And technology has come this far. If you know about the Meta Quest 2, that Facebook has just launched, it has all these cameras and sensors that actually record your expressions and how your fingers are moving. So my avatar in the metaverse will move and talk like just like in real life, right? And games are of course more immersive. So a Zoom meetings is other immersive experience would be if you're immersed in a 3D environment in VR and having a meeting, right? So that's the entire concept behind metaverse. And we're actually not there yet. It's making use of some new emerging technologies like AR and VR, but still a long way to go. All right, जो cyberpunk वाला जो future है, that's still yet to come. Right now, of course, Web 2 games or our traditional games have amazing graphics, right? GTA, Horizon, all these games have really amazing graphics, and one of the reasons for that is you have to actually download them on your system, right? You have to download like hundreds of GBs on your system and then install it and then wait for it to complete the installation and the verification process, and then you can log in and play your game, right? And if it's an online game, then of course jab tak server up nahi hoga, you won't be able to play it, all right? So you have to connect to a server and then you're actually able to play that online multiplayer game, right? Now, of course, that's why these games have amazing graphics, क्योंकि 100 GB का game पड़ा हुआ है मेरी hard drive पे यार, तो हो गई, right? But Web3 games were actually trying to solve this problem by moving a little backwards, right? We have reduced the graphics, all right? Because Web3 games, we need them to load in real time, all right? So if I have an environment and I make a change in it, I need other players to see that change in real time. That's why Web3 games looks so bad, all right, because we need to reduce the graphics, and I'll also talk about it in a bit, relating to this one game that I've been building on. It's a Web3 game that we've been working on at Weblisto, called Zana World Builder, all right. And of course, it looks very low poly, I know that. And it's just a game where you can build different worlds with your friends and then explore them. So we give you all these tools like buildings and roads and trees and stuff. You can place them and then upload them, and then you can explore them with your friends. All right, you can build anything that you want. So it's just a very simple game. And the reason behind that is, let me just talk about what we did to optimize our game and why we made it so, right? So first of all, of course, we have to reduce the graphics because we need the files to be shorter, everything to be loading in real time, all right? So we had to reduce the graphics. There's no getting around it. Of course, as the technology progresses more and more, as VR and AR devices become more and more powerful, we'd be sure to increase the graphics, but right now we just can't, all right? And of course, Web3 games, we want everyone to be, having access to them. So that's why our games have to be cross-platform, all right? So it has to run on Android as well as iOS, on Mac, on Windows, on your PlayStation, whatever, all right? So for that, we need to keep it simple, right? And for Web3, we're actually making use of the cloud a lot. So most of our things are on the cloud, and we're actually moving towards uh, you know reducing as much as storage as we could, all right? So that brings us to our next third point, which is reducing file size. Because if I want, you know jaldi load hona hai, so we have to reduce the file size. And reducing the graphics and reducing the file size just gives us reduced load times, all right? Because of course किसी को मजा नहीं आता जब loading चलता रहता है games में, right? And the last thing is keeping it simple, all right? Because the hardware and the technology is not there yet, it's still catching up. We need to keep our games very simple. Of course, we can create games like GTA and everything, but then it won't run on every device, right? So we have to keep it simple if we want to do it. And that was just some things that I wanted to put out there. If if I was asked, how do you actually optimize your game for Web3, right? Now, Unity के बारे में इतना बात कर दिया, सारे game engines के बारे में इतना बात कर दिया, तो let me just show you what Unity actually looks like. All right, we have a lot of time. And this is the software that I use on a day-to-day basis. All right, I have a very simple game loaded here. And let me just first define what the entire structure of Unity is, all right? So this is my game screen. This is what the player actually sees on their screen as well, all right? Uske upar is my level, all right? So this is kind of like behind the scenes wala thingy. I can zoom out and see ki mera level is arranged like that, right? Right here, I have my game objects. Everything that is in my game in this scene is kept right here. I have some scripts and some physics systems, collision systems that are working on in the background. Let me just first show you how this game actually works. So it's really easy. I just push the arrow keys to move my character, space key to jump, all right? And then if I have the carrot, my character becomes thoda sa bada, all right? Very simple, all right? And the reason I'm showing this is because I want to show how easy game development is. Game development, if you love coding, how many of you love coding here? Okay, nice. So if you love coding and you love games, you're going to love game development. All right? And this is what it basically is. मुझसे कोई पूछता है कि what do you do all day? I'm like, games खेलता हूँ, games बनाता हूँ, games खेलता हूँ, games बनाता हूँ. ये चलता है. All right? And let me just show the scripts that are working on the background. All right? So this script controls my player. All right? It's not clearly visible. I'm so sorry. Can you guys actually read what's on the... Bro, I don't know how to zoom. Just 1 second. Can you come and help me zoom? It's not my Mac. I just use Windows. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. So, this is the script that controls my player, all right? And I have two functions. One's the update function. So let me just first explain how these games actually work, right? You might have heard about कि यार ये game 60 FPS पे चल रहा है, right? FPS, frames per second, all right? So frames per second for our games is basically our code that is executed itne number of times in 1 second, all right? So if I'm saying my game is running at 60 frames per second, so my code that is in my update function right here is being executed 60 times per second, all right? That's how this works. So har 1 second mein if my game is running at 60 fps, har bar I'm checking if I'm getting an input from the user, and I'm checking if that input is a right arrow key. If it is, I'll just apply a velocity. So basically like saying मेरे player को हल्का सा push कर रहा हूँ मैं पीछे से in that direction, all right? So and same is the case for left arrow. If I'm pressing the left arrow, I'm pushing the player in the other direction, right? And space, if I press space, I'm pushing the player from ऐसे नीचे से, right? And of course, you don't have to understand the vectors and everything. It's just that simple. And in my fixed update, that is code that is executed at constant intervals. In my fixed update, I'm just checking अगर player ज़मीन से टकराया हुआ है, touch कर रखा है तो. And the reason for that is कि अगर मैं space दबाऊंगा, player jumps. मैंने फिर से space दबाया, player फिर और jump कर जाएगा, and you know what? बाहर चले जाएगा वो. So I have to check कि player ज़मीन से touch हो रखा है क्या? अगर हो रखा है, then only you can jump. Alright, that's the condition right there. Really simple. That controls your player. Alright, now about the power up, I have a collision system which checks if my player has collided with anything. Player किसी चीज से touch हुआ है क्या? And then I check कि player किस चीज से touch हुआ है. Alright, so player collide हुआ किसी चीज से, my function comes here, my control comes here. Then I check कि जिस चीज से वो collide हुआ है, is it a power? Is it a pickup? Alright, if it is, then I'll execute certain code. Alright, मैं उसे screen से हटा देता हूँ. I add 1 point on my screen and then I display it. It's that easy. Alright, so in those scripts we made our entire game, right? So it's that easy. It's not that difficult. And some really clever tricks that we use. Let me just show you. ये पीछे क्या चल रहा है? On the look at the upper screen, right? You can see the background also moving, right? Now why is that? We don't have a very big background, so what we do is we stick the background to the camera's position, and फिर हम background को ही move करते रहते हैं. So you feel कि बहुत बड़ा background है, it's not moving, but it's actually moving with the player. So if you look up there, when I jump, the background also jumps. So these are some little tricks that we use to, you know, create our games. And I just wanted to show Unity because I wanted to show you how easy it is to code your own game in just a few lines, right? So if I had to, you know, conclude my presentation, I would just say that go home, download a game engine, and try it out for yourselves. It's really easy. It's really some of they're all free, all right, unless you're making a commercial game. But if you want to learn, they're all free and they're really powerful, all right. So if you guys want to get into game development, and of course it's just not game development. If you guys want to get into gaming field as a whole, all right. So you could be a 3D artist, you could be a rigger, you could be an animation artist, you could be a developer, you could be a UI artist. Doesn't matter, all right. If you want to get into gaming, I think Unity or any game engine would be a good way to start, right? So with that, let me just conclude my presentation, and if you guys have any question, I'm open to them. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Amit.
Hi.
How can we use gaming in e-commerce like Flipkart and Crate are using?
Okay. So this is also very interesting.
Also,
Let me just talk about.
one more question. How
Yeah.
can we monetize if we make a game? Means how do you monetize?
How do I monetize the game, and how is the e-commerce industry using games? Right? Right? Okay. So the e-commerce industry and all these other industries are actually using game engines a lot rather than games. Right? So how they're using game engines? If I talk about Unity, Unity is really good for AR and VR, right? So businesses are now using Unity to create their AR or VR showrooms. All right, so I can have let's say H&M ka showroom, and I can walk around the H&M showroom in VR, or I can open my phone, have the catalog as an AR app in my phone. That's how these businesses are actually utilizing um, these different game engines, all right, rather than games. They're actually using these game engines to to create different applications, because it's really easy to create an VR or AR applications in Unity. Now, talking about how do you actually monetize the game, that's actually a very nice question. यार game से पैसे कैसे कमा सकते हैं, right? Now, of course, I can go ahead and just sell your data, but we don't do that, right? So, um, first, very simple way to earn money online is to display ads, right? So a lot of games have these very annoying ads that pop up. एकदम एक level खत्म किया और ad आ गया, फिर खत्म किया फिर ad आ गया, right? So this is how they actually make money. Another way that they make money is कि if you played Subway Surfers या जो भी है, when you die you get this option to continue from that point. If you just buy a key, if you just buy this thing, just pay like 5 rupees or something and you can play the game again. That's how we make money again. Some other ways is, of course, creating an in-game currency. All right. So I can, of course, use real money, but then if I create an in-game currency, I can decide its value against real life money, right? So games like Fortnite will have their own in-game currency called V-Bucks, and then you have to purchase those V-Bucks, and फिर उससे you can buy different in-game items. All right, that's another way to make money. And another way is, just like I said, in-game items. All right, so I can ask a 3D guy to create me a new skin. All right, and then I can sell it. It's that easy. Won't cost me a lot, but then I can sell it for whatever I want. That's how we make money. And of course, if you're still not making money, you can always go and sell the data. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
So my question is like, how do we use AI/ML in game development? Like as you show, we use C Sharp mainly. So like mainly we code in Python. So how use AI/ML, and can you tell how to integrate AI/ML with the game?
Okay. So let me just first say that I'm not a big AI/ML guy, right? But we do have different AIs and ML stuff in Unity. It's just a new thing that's coming with the new versions of Unity now. And of course, we all know that games mein AI hote hain, right? If you played GTA or anything, you might have seen these different NPCs, and they act as if they're real people, right? Not exactly, but that's basically our game's AI, all right? A lot of games utilize this concept of AI, but it's not really AI, all right? It's basically just these different conditions, all right? So if I come and in GTA, agar main aake kisi NPC ko punch karta hu, all right? So I can predict its behavior. I know कि वो गिरेगा या भागने लगेगा या जो भी है, all right? It's AI, but it's very predictable. I think you're talking about AI that thinks on its own, stuff like that, right? So Unity is actually, moving towards all of this, creating neural nets and all of that stuff. I'm not really well versed into it, all right? But I know that if you really want to get into AI and ML in the game development perspective, right? You can just please go and search for AI ML agents in Unity. Right? AI ML agents in Unity, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of documentation on it. Yeah. That's also a very nice question. Thank you. Now, the reason, one of the big reasons that we use Unity is because Unity has this really amazing feature that it's multi-platform, right? So of course, C# is also cross-platform. It supports different platforms, and Unity is actually able to switch my platform with just one click of a button. Let me just show you, all right? So this is my game, all right? If I go here and go to build. Now when creating a game, when creating the exe file, हमारे code से जब हम exe file उसको export करते हैं, so we have all these options. So if you see on the screen, you have Windows, Mac, Linux. You can switch it to iOS, Android, WebGL, tvOS, PlayStation, whatever. Alright. मुझे अगर switch करना है, so I just click on iOS and I just click switch platform. That's how easy it is to switch platform in Unity or in Unreal or in any other major game engine. So we don't have to do much. We just have to change our code thoda sa. You know why? Because if Unity actually manages all of that on its own. We don't have to deal with Android ke permission, we don't have to deal with that, right? So if my game is using the camera, I'll get a pop-up automatically on my screen that this application is requesting to use your camera. It's that easy, right? The only thing that I will have to change is कि अगर मैं keyboard के input ले रहा हूँ, I cannot do that on Android, right? So Android के लिए I'll have to take in the touch inputs. इतना change करना होगा. Otherwise, I just have to press one button and platform switch. Right? Thank you. Game development. All right. So, how can a web developer or an app developer switch to game development? That's also a really good question. So I'm assuming you already know how to code. All right. Now, if you know how to code, it won't be that easy to switch your language, right? If you're coding in an OOPS language, then you can switch to another OOPS language, right? Just learn that language, all right, and download a free game engine, as I said, and just go ahead and try. See, it's different for different people, all right? Different people will create different kinds of games, all right? Some people will go for 2D games. Some people will go for 3D games. Some people might not go for games at all. They might do something else entirely on that game engine, all right? So, of course, it's not up to me to say how you can actually, because you might be good at 3D, you might not be good at logic. You might be good at logic, you might not be good at something else, all right? So you have to figure it out. If you want to start, I'll just say download Unity and just start. Just start, all right? Void start. Yeah. How does ray tracing works? All right. So ray tracing, for those who don't know what ray tracing actually is, these game engines have become so powerful that they're actually able to calculate how light interacts in their virtual environment, all right? So, for example, in real life, how does light work? The light waves, rays come, hit my face and then reflect back, all right? And that's how you can actually, and the light bounces everywhere, all right? So if I put my hand here, my hand will reflect some light on this screen also, right? This white will become thoda sa, yellow, or mere skin ke color ka, all right? So this is what ray tracing actually means in the real world. In the gaming world, we also simulate this using a light source. So if I have a light source in my game world, I can actually calculate how these light rays are, interacting with the environment, and that's very resource intensive, all right? So ray tracing जो अभी 3090, 4090 ये सब series जो चल रही है, इन सब में ray tracing क्यों है? Because they are very, very, very powerful hardware, all right? And still Unreal can push them to their limits, right? Unreal is that powerful. So ray tracing is basically, we are simulating how light works in the real world in our game world. We're still not there yet. Abhi bhi perfect nahi hai ray tracing, but we're trying to do it, right? The data science into the game development world. All right. So there was this game called Hello Neighbor, right? Which takes the player as the what's the term that you use in data science for data? What's your input? What's it called? Yeah, exactly. So you're thinking on the same. Yeah, exactly. So this game Hello Neighbor, what it does is observes the player, right? और जैसे player behave कर रहा है ना, उसके उसे observe कर करके वो data collection कर करके working on that, it actually improves itself according to the player, right? So अगर player बहुत ही ज़्यादा अच्छा खेल रहा है, so it'll also increase its level, right? That's machine learning and everything. I'm so sorry, I'm not very well versed with data science and ML and AI, as I mentioned. But this, I think, any application of data science that you might think could be applied in a virtual space can be applied there, right? So, off the top of my head, I can just, think of making an AI for game which utilizes these data models, right? And I'm so sorry, I would take some other questions as well, but I think we're out of time. So with that, thank you everyone. Thank you for having me, and you guys can find me anywhere. Thank you so much.
What a knowledgeable session it was. Thank you so much, Kushagra. And I would request you to please accept the memento. Please.
Amit, please come at the center.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.